Good evening, everyone. It's the Board of Trustees regular meeting. It is February 23rd, 2016. This is meeting number 2015-05. Please take the roll, Jane.
President Barry?
Here.
Trustee Strite?
Yes.
Trustee Stalker?
Here.
Trustee Olenichek?
Here.
Trustee Desmond?
Here.
Trustee Carberry?
Here.
And Trustee Vorder?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Would everyone rise, please, for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. And I just am confirming, again, we had no public comments tonight. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you very much. Item 4 tonight is conflict of interest. Does anyone have a conflict to disclose with any item on tonight's agenda? Hearing none, we're going to move on. I have item 5, a request to approve the use of the Village Green for hosted events on specific dates by the Oaklawn Public Library. May I have a motion
Motion
on
to
5?
approve.
Properly moved by Trustee Olenichek.
Second.
And wow, that was stereo. I'm going to give it to Trustee Carberry. Any discussion? Let's take that vote, please.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you, gentlemen. Item 6 tonight is Advocate Children's Hospital 9th Annual Running for Hope 5K. This is June 5th, 2016.
Motion to approve.
Properly moved by Trustee Olenichek.
Second.
Seconded by Trustee Vorder. Any discussion? Let's take that vote, please. Is anyone from the hospital here? Okay, let's take that vote, please.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. Hope it's a beautiful day for them. Item 7 tonight is Oaklawn Chamber of Commerce Spring into Summer Event, June 11th, 2016.
Motion to approve.
Properly moved by Trustee Olenichek.
Second.
Seconded by Trustee Vorder. And I think we have someone from the chamber here. Brian, do you want to come up and say a few words about the event? I need you to come to the podium and state your name and let us know, sir, if you're an Oaklawn resident.
My name's Brian Farrell, the Vice President of the Oaklawn Chamber, not Oaklawn resident. This is our 10th year for Spring to Summer this year, so the event's going to be same as it's been for the last several years with the pet parade starting off from the middle school at 10, coming to the far end of green with a vendor fair, our new cow show and a vintage cow show this year, and we'll have no liquor sold at this event this year, like in the last 2 years, and kids' activities.
Very good.
So-
And so there's a pet owner lookalike contest also, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay,
There is.
so let everyone get their pets all decked out, and that sounds great. And so this is Saturday, June 11th from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. Are there any questions, any discussion on this item? Let's take that vote, please.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Okay, let's see. Item 8, Oaklawn Matters presentation. I'm going to turn the floor over to Trustee Vorder for this one.
Thank you, Mayor. Just as a way of introduction, a little bit of history. Myself and Trustee Desmond over the years have talked about how we can get the message out to our community on how many positive things are not only happening here in village government, but in our school districts, in our park districts, in our charitable organizations. And Trustee Desmond and you, Mayor, have taken a handle of that and started a blog called Oaklawn Matters. And you put a lot of time and effort in it, but we're not reaching a whole lot of people with that. And in talking with Trustee Desmond on how we can reach more people, I reached out to a friend of mine who's a mayor in the south suburb, and I asked him if he had any ideas. And he introduced me to a company called Fanning Communications. They are a Crestwood company. And myself and Tim made an appointment. We sat down and talked with John Fanning, the president of that company. And he made a presentation to us on a couple of occasions that we thought was pretty impressive, and a way of getting a very positive message into our constituents' mailboxes without very little or no cost or even possible profit to the village of Oak Lawn. So I would like to introduce John Fanning from Fanning Communications. John, would you take the microphone?
Mr. Fanning, if you could please come to the podium and state your name and just let us know, sir, if you live in Oak Lawn.
Good evening, everyone. My name is John Fanning. I am the president of Fanning Communications. I'm not a resident of Oak Lawn.
Thank you.
I'd like to speak to you tonight a little bit about my company, what we do, and what we think we can do for Oak Lawn that I think would be a very positive step for everyone here. Let me make sure I have this. I promise I... Yay, there we are. I promise no one will die from PowerPoint tonight. I'll go through these very quickly. What we have is a proposal for strategic communication services, and that word sometimes seems a little scary, so I'll define that a little bit for you later. My company was founded in 2000. We specialize in strategic communications. We service businesses, private and public sector personalities, nonprofit organizations, and governments. In governments, we work with federal government, we work with state governments, and we work with local municipalities. Strategic communications, what that is it's basically interpreting and communicating concepts. Interpreting is a very key point here. It means we listen. We listen very carefully to what people are saying. We listen very carefully to what's going on in social media, and we interpret that information. And then we can try and communicate concepts and processes very clearly in a distinct manner so that everyone understands and everyone's pretty much on the same page as to what we're doing or what the client is doing and what the client intends to do. It's used by most businesses, organizations, including the United States. In fact, the United States government has their own definition, which I put up there. You could read it, but I'm not going to do it. But they have their own definition for which is in line with what I just described. So what we do basically is we assist our clients in developing and delivering consistent messaging that eliminates and or neutralizes internal misinformation, public obfuscation, which is just misunderstandings, and extraneous disinformation. It's very important for every organization to have a consistent communications policy, especially in this day and age when you have social media and everyone is trying to interpret or put something up that tells their own version of a story. I'll give you a real brief example. We have a major corporation headquartered here in Chicago area, major airline. And when the regulation came in, they had to compete against these new firms that were starting up. So they wanted to take 6 inches out of the coach class seats, and they did. So that was typical to what every other airline was doing, but what they didn't do was explain why they were doing it to their frontline employees and everyone else inside there. So when people got on planes and they talked to flight attendants or whatever, and they said, well, why is this, why is this seat much closer together? It was up to the employee to give their interpretation, and those interpretations didn't really coincide. And as well as that, there was other people that thought it was a threat. There was a lot of rumors. There was a lot of concern that happened over this simple 6 inches. Ultimately, it led to the bankruptcy. It helped to lead to the bankruptcy of that major airline. So it's very important that communications be spread to everybody. All the employees understand what the administration is trying to do so that they can communicate directly to the public because they're the ones that are in contact with the public most of the time. So that's what we try and do and assist people in doing that. We also monitor and engage in communications. So we listen to what's going on out there. If people are misinformed or they're putting something up that's not quite right, we try and engage them and correct the record. We also foster community building, and we are very proud of that. By setting a good example and by showing people good examples that are in the community, it fosters within the community a desire for other people to emulate those acts. So instead of talking about negative things, we talk about Eagle Scouts and we talk about people who are volunteering. We tell the truth. We just highlight the positives. And by highlighting positives, more people want to do positive things. It has a chain reaction. So how we do it is by developing a consistent policy for communication and targeting. We identify and disseminate consistent and factual communications. We always tell the truth. We only tell facts. We don't opinionate. We don't put out opinions or equivocate. We develop and administer channels of communication delivery. By that I mean we can work in digital format, we can work in print format, we work in all the various formats. We monitor multi-channel communications. We listen to what anybody is saying, wherever it is. We usually do this automatically. We're not really there, but we have applets that we send out that monitor and tell us everything that's being said about our clients. We directly confront and correct publicly disseminated misinformation. And when necessary, we will investigate and confront and assist in the prosecution of disinformation. Disinformation, if you're not aware what that is, misinformation is just false information that people put up or put out that they don't know is false. It's just a mistake. Disinformation is false information that is put out by people who know it's false. And that is something that a number of companies, obviously a competitor of a company that might want to put something out false, that could lead to litigation. And we assist in that endeavor if necessary. Okay, so why is it important for every municipality? Well, today's information technology has resulted in unrestricted information. You have everybody on social media posting this, posting that. So let me give you an example. When I was a kid, growing up on the South Side, if somebody was out working in the parkway, a city worker, I'd walk up to him and I might say, "Hey, what are you doing?" And he'd say, "I don't know, I'm just doing what I'm told to do." And that would be the end of it. Today, that kind of answer would wind up on YouTube or social media, and everybody would start running with it. How come people are digging up? They don't know what they're doing. It's another waste. It's this, that, whatever. So it's important that that communication is down to the frontline people. They understand not just what they're doing, but why they're doing it and what the overall purpose is going to be in serving the public by their actions. It's also, there's an altered perception of progress when you have disinformation out there. People will say, well, you know, this is just another example of something not going wrong because I couldn't get this right answer from this one person. And that can mushroom into the point where people are thinking nothing is done right. It also has very serious consequences on municipalities, a lot that people don't really realize. For example, funding and finance. It can affect bond rating because it's perceptions that are out there. And when you're talking to the finance industry, they deal in perceptions. When they're deciding what your bond rating is going to be, yes, they look at the books, but they also take in they also have perceptions as well as to what the future of that particular community could be or might be. That also translates into commercial development. Lenders to people who want to start businesses in a municipality can be impacted by false perceptions. Altered perceptions of value, lower residential property values. If people think that ill of a town, well, that translates into the value of your own personal property. That in turn translates into the appraised value of your property and property tax revenues derived by the administration. Also in translating into lowered assessed valuation. And impaired retail sales and commercial development. Less people shopping in your town if they have a bad perception of your town. So all of these things, increased criminal activities also, and all of these things can be a consequence of poor perceptions. We've seen this. We've actually seen it and dealt with it in municipalities similar to Oak Lawn. So the plan that we have is to create a method that is consistently conveys the truth to the community in a manner that is both entertaining and informative. The one thing about, the sad thing about many forms of government is when they talk in such tones, in such terms, that is kind of boring. And they have to do that because most of what happens is all tied up in legal works. It's written so that it's all legal. What we try and do is take that information and put it into a term that everybody can understand, and not only understand, but you'd actually enjoy reading about it, because we not only define what's happening, but why it happened. We want a media channel that is official, so you know that what you're reading is the real deal. It's really coming from your town, your people that are running the town. A media channel that promotes government transparency. We want to allow you to understand everything that's going on within your government and promote transparency. A media that the people can trust. A media that, a channel that is simple to use and understand, and people like it, enjoy using it, and it confronts indifference by highlighting positive alternatives that promote civic duty and volunteerism. Our company produces such publications, both, as I said, digitally and in print. We produce InfraGard magazine. InfraGard was founded by the Federal Bureau of Investigation in the late 1990s to combat cybercrime. We produced that national magazine for them. It instructs people on how to protect themselves, critical infrastructure across all areas. We produce the Crestwood Advisor. The Crestwood was one of the towns that came to us. They were facing a serious crisis. Most of you know about that. With their water, they asked us to take over the publication of the newspaper that they had. We did do that. Their problems are behind them. I think that we'll let that paper speak for itself, but certainly the trustees and the mayor of that town are very pleased with the work that we did for them, as are all the citizens of Crestwood. We produce On Guard Illinois for the Illinois State Crime Commission, and that is focused at law enforcement. That magazine highlights efforts by law enforcement throughout the state of Illinois. That's a new publication that came our way, and that is because right now it's very difficult times for law enforcement, and they came to us and asked if we could help to highlight the positive aspects of law enforcement. We can. We think we can do a lot to change the attitudes of a lot of people when it comes to understanding what law enforcement is all about, the men and women who serve in law enforcement and protect us. So those are some of the publications we do. On the Oaklawn Matters, what we're looking at is producing a monthly magazine. It would be mailed to every single resident and every business in the village. You would receive it in your mail every month. It would be a bulk distribution also to coffee shops, hospitals, other retail areas throughout the village. We would do that and deliver that to these areas. It would be a non-competitive publication. By that I mean it will not compete against existing newspapers, existing blogs, anything like that that's out there. It will not publish opinion. It will not publish political commentary, editorial, nor will it accept political advertising at any time. It will also not feature breaking news. It is basically just going to relate the story of Oaklawn. What is going on in Oaklawn, or what your leaders are trying to do in Oaklawn, why they're trying to do it, and also provides some other opportunities for residents. It would contain, for example, usually a mayor's letter, a village administration, public works review of projects, development, rules, and ordinances. It would talk about parks and recreation, what's out there for you. What can you do to use that? Library events, senior citizen events, veterans events, sporting club news, and so on. Basically everything that's going on. We would talk to the local high schools, local schools in the area, get their sporting information, who are their honor students, who's succeeding, all of this information that's there. Also seniors, seniors that are in the town, focusing on them. What have they done? Why? What advantages are there, and there are many, to living in Oak Lawn for senior citizens. Free classified advertisement for residents is something that we recommend. Obviously, everything that goes into the publication will be approved by the administration. These are our recommendations. But we do recommend free classified advertisement for residents. So if you have a garage sale or something that you want to sell, you can put a free ad in the paper. And we also produce a page that contains our own comic strip, for example, 94 South. It's a comic strip that focuses on this area, and it talks and it addresses specifically landmarks that you would recognize, as well as a puzzle page which has a crossword, Sudoku, things like this that people enjoy reading. Here's how it would be paid for: through advertising. Direct advertising based on circulation, display, paid classifieds from real estate. So one of the things that we looked at is, in taking care of governments, is governments cannot really go out and afford to just put out entertainment for their people. Money is tight. So it was, how can we accomplish this and yet make the cost very low or non-existent at all? And the idea was, well, we'll sell advertising in these papers, and that will also bring the community a little more better together. But even more than that, that money from the advertisement will go to the city or to the village or to the municipality. And that is true on all of the publications that we produce. It's a unique model, one that my company developed, and it has a proven success. So it's a shared advertising revenues. The way it breaks down is on an initial 20-page publication, similar to what we're producing right now for Crestwood. You're looking at a bulk distribution about $3,000. That is our cost to produce this. That means we write the stories, we go out and find the stories, write the stories, put the stories in, do all the graphic design, do everything to turnkey the project and make the newspaper really good and really readable. And then if we increase, we would only increase based upon advertising that comes in. So as advertising got to the point where you had over 40% advertising as compared to 60% editorial, so that you have that ratio that we would always want to maintain. 60% good things for you all to read with 40% maximum on your advertising. Once we start to increase on that 40% revenue, we want to look at expanding the newspaper. That also means expanding more editorial, but it's to accommodate those ads so it doesn't look like it's just an ad paper. And it isn't just an ad paper. So we would increase that, and we increase that in 8-page increments, and of course that increased the cost of production, so our cost increased as well. Our printing estimate is about $3,000, and our mailing estimate about $1,500. Now that amount of money goes against the advertising revenue, which we are predicting based upon 22,000 residences that you have, plus your businesses that you have in town. And our experience in selling. We believe that single insertion rate for a full-page ad of $2,000 is very reasonable. And 3/4 page of $1,750 and so on that you see up there. So, and again, that's an estimated circulation about 30,000. So basically what we're saying is just a few ads, full-page ads, would actually pay for the entire publication. Over and above that entire publication, the money, 80% of all revenue, goes back to the village. 20% goes to my company, and that 20% is for doing all the sales and handling all the advertising and putting all the advertising in the magazine. So we get 20%, the village gets 80%. And that's basically it, unless you have some questions.
Thank you. Any discussion, gentlemen?
Yeah. I've
Trustee Stalker.
I'm familiar with Fannin Communications, and I've seen some of your work. And I know that the administration in Crestwood is very supportive of what you've done. And I really think this is a good idea for the people of the village. And I think it's also a great business development tool. I think the businesses would support it as well, so I appreciate your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Desmond.
How soon, how long does it normally take for you to get these advertisers on board?
Well, most advertisers want to see what they're going to be advertising in. So usually it takes a publication or two to really come up. But the difference that we have here is that we already have publications that we can show them from other municipalities. So I am projecting that by the second publication, you would definitely be in the black.
Thank you.
The other thing too, and this is important, is because we're talking now about multiple publications in multiple municipalities, there are companies in Crestwood that would love to advertise in the Oak Lawn newspaper version, and there are certainly going to be companies in Oak Lawn that would want to advertise in Crestwood. And so that lends itself to a shared revenue response. And as the numbers go up, you also become more intriguing or more acceptable, I should say, to national advertisers and placing actual national advertising ads in there, and that would be profit sharing also.
Now, is there a limit to what advertising you'll accept? I mean, it sounds great, and hopefully we can get these advertisers, but we don't want it to become, a newspaper full of advertisements, and then it kind of defeats the whole purpose of people reading it.
Yeah, great question. And again, that's that 60-40 ratio that we recommend as a maximum. We like to stay with a maximum of 40% advertising to 60% editorial. And that's why we would actually expand. And I do see this newspaper expanding rather rapidly from 20 pages. I just think based upon our experience, is going to be a very popular publication.
Madam Mayor?
Trustee Oliniechek and then Trustee Straight.
You've been doing this down in Crestwood for how long?
We've been doing the Crestwood Advisor for, I'm going to guess, I know that we came in just after the water crisis. So what was that, 7 years ago, something like that?
So you've got a good track record of what your success rate is. So in the village of Crestwood, if you can let us know, what is it costing the village, or what are they making off of it?
The village of Crestwood, gets, our services are free. Our services are totally paid for. We do not do the printing for them. They have the printing done themselves. I don't even know what they pay exactly for their printing costs, so I'm not sure if they are in the black or not, but they are definitely in the black as far as our services are concerned.
How much revenue stream are they seeing from the advertisement?
It varies, but I'd say that normally they're getting about $3,000 to $4,000 a month.
Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Straight.
Thank you, Mayor. John, we have at least 4 representatives from the media here tonight that represent, various local publications. Some of the papers that cover Oak Lawn are not here tonight. Could you tell me how you feel that what you would be doing would be different than what they already do, and why it would be necessary for us to have your publication when these publications are completely independent and don't charge us anything to
Sure.
cover Oak Lawn?
Sure, be happy to. What I'm proposing is an informative paper that will discuss what the village is doing and what events are occurring in the village. What mainstream media does, and I speak as a journalist myself that has written for the mainstream media, they write on breaking news primarily. We don't want to compete with them because they are writing about breaking news or writing about events that happen. They do investigative reporting. They do all sorts of things that are not going to be covered in a publication like this. This publication is basically going to tell the story of Oak Lawn, and is going to tell the story and explain to the people of Oak Lawn what their administration is doing, what events are planned. It's going to be solely focused on Oak Lawn. The other thing too is that it's unfortunate but true, but mainstream media today is is withdrawing to a large extent. And most people get their news, their news from the internet, or they get it from computers. And what this is going to focus on is not related to generally what the news that is gathered by mainstream media. It's just going to be what's absolutely happening and very positive information.
Madam Mayor?
Trustee Warder was next, and then Trustee Oliniechek.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Mr. Fanning, I've had an opportunity to look at 3 or 4 of your issues from Crestwood, and what I found interesting about it is it focused just on events going on in that community, whether they be the high schools, the grade schools, sporting events, kids who are participating, and it was much more detailed than the mass media, which you're correct, it's less and less community-oriented and more general, regional-oriented. And we have a population in Oak Lawn that's senior, and I think a lot of senior people still like the newspaper in their hand, but there is a lot of communication going on, as you mentioned, in the social media, the internet. Is there a way this could be backed up with Oak Lawn Matters being published, the printed form and a digital form?
Sure. Actually, we furnish a digital form and PDF free of charge to the municipalities that we take care of, and you can post it on your internet site.
So
you
that
can post
way
it on your website, your current website, so people can actually see it digitally. We can also format that so it's available for mobile.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you.
Trustee Oliniechek.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, back, I want to say 5, 6 years ago, maybe even longer, we used to have a quarterly report that was put out by the village board, and I know it took a lot of resources from staff. So what I like about this is it's not going to be resources from staff. The other thing I like about it is, as I read, the library sends out a report, and I know
Quarterly.
that that's paid on taxpayers' dollars, and the school boards and school districts send out a report, and that's paid on taxpayer dollars.
Park District also.
And Park District too. So what I look at, and I know that the reason why we cut it out of doing this is when we made some budget decisions, because it was just too, especially with the economies we were going through, it was just too expensive to continue going. So if I understand you correctly, this publication will be about Oak Lawn, for the people in Oak Lawn, and will actually cost the taxpayers nothing, or could generate money back into the village.
Yes, that is correct. It will generate money back into the village. It will not cost the taxpayers any money.
Excellent, because I do enjoy reading about what's going on in the various library, the school districts and what they're doing. And I think that information is very key, especially with as many special events that we have here at the village, and all the services that we as a village offer. So I think it's very important, and I do know that residents have asked me, as their trustee, why did we have to stop it? Because, for example, when we changed our waste hauler and recycling company, we were able to get a lot of information out about specifically the larger toters and how the recycling program works, and then also get information out about the different change in season when the recycling, or not recycling, but the yard waste starts and stops, and other various programs. So I see that, based from the constituents I've talked to, I see a value to it, especially if it's not going to cost the residents any money.
Trustee Stalker.
Yeah, you raise an interesting point. If we could bring the school districts and the park board and the library and other municipal bodies into this and help them publish their information, we could save them money while it doesn't cost us any more. The other thing is that this seems to fit all demographics. You've got the print media for us old folks who like to have a piece of paper in their hand, and you've also got the electronic media available for the folks who like to read it on the train while they're going to work. So I think this really fills a lot of needs.
Madam Mayor, just one other thing is, how often would you say that we would be putting this out? Once a quarter, once a month?
Once a month.
So it'd be once a month. So, I really think that, to drive that home is thinking out of the box, looking at the other taxing bodies and their ability to get information out and let that be all encompassing. I'm sure, I've not talked to the school board or to the library board, but I don't see anybody that would have a negative if we're able to reduce and save taxpayers money. I think it's a win-win for everybody.
Trustee Olenichek, I couldn't agree more. I think the trend is let's consolidate our resources rather than each person doing their own thing, and this is a way to do it. And I want to reassure our members of the press in attendance tonight that a monthly publication is dramatically different in terms of covering breaking news, all of those things. We're not going to go into that, but this could be a reference for residents. And it's been very frustrating, to be honest, as an elected official, how to get the word out. We have our website, our Facebook page, we have the newsletter, we post flyers, we try everything to get the word out, and yet residents still are always confused and basic questions are unanswered, and it leads to frustration, and it's not good government, frankly, to have lack of communication. It's been very hard. Now, Larry, do you recall what we were paying for the newsletter before that was quarterly?
I do. Probably in hard costs, 70 to 85,000. Then when you add in the soft costs of staff and time, you're over six figures.
Okay.
Hey,
Yeah, so-
Madam Mayor, can I just
Trustee
launch on that?
Olenichek,
Because
please.
we just had a very progressive program with Commonwealth Edison that they had. I know in second district I saw well over 15, 20 trucks doing tree trimming, and there were a lot of questions from residents. Commonwealth Edison put out a mailer, but there was a lot of return phone calls on what are these people doing in the neighborhood, and I think if we had an avenue like this, it'd be great for Commonwealth Edison to say, here's a great program, here's what you're going to see, and it really would get that information out there. I think it's a wonderful idea, and I think that we should look at really putting this together and moving forward with it.
Yeah, so how quickly could you kind of pull everything together? You said about a month. Do you need lead time? Do you?
Mm-hmm. About that, in order to talk to the administration, all the people within the administration, get our lines of communication set up so that we have that flow of information coming to us, our staff, so that they can do the design and everything else. If realistically, we would be looking at an April 1st as an initial rollout if we got approval.
Madam Mayor, can I suggest an article for that? Property maintenance? That's typically one of the biggest things.
It is. All these
that
calls
hits
we get over and over.
And what our property maintenance code is and what the homeowner's responsibility is. And, I think it would be great to have that because that's the number one thing coming up in the spring. Trustee Carberry and I were just talking about property maintenance and when people don't meet the minimum acceptable maintenance and what a resident can do and how they could report that. I think it'd be great.
Trustee Border.
Yeah, Mr. Fanning, I assume that there's some contractual obligations on the part of the village and your company to get this kind of kicked off. I think that I sense that the board is pretty much positive here. I'd like to make a motion to direct our staff, to meet with Fanning's company and come up with a contract, make some recommendations to this board and move forward with this idea.
Okay. I was just clarifying if we could do something that wasn't specific on the agenda, and if we're just directing staff, our council says yes, we can accept that motion. So we have a motion by
Second.
Trustee Warder and seconded by Trustee Olenichek. Any discussion? Trustee Strike?
Yeah, I have a little bit of, just a few more concerns or questions. Mr. Fanning, you had several times you mentioned the municipalities that you do this for. in all of your presentation, I only heard that the municipality of Crestwood. Are there other municipalities that you
We work,
currently-
we work with Country Club Hills, and we handle the police department website for Country Club Hills as well, and worked on their theater program. We work with other ones, but as far as publishing a newspaper, no. The only one that we publish a newspaper for right now is Crestwood. We are actually in talks with 2 other municipalities for this same service.
Okay, and you indicated that you felt the advertising would be able to pay for the production or the cost, and at Crestwood, you indicated that that you handle basically I guess the writing and probably the well, you said that specifically that they pay for the printing, and so what I'm wondering, to Trustee Olenichik's question, would you be able to provide us when you provide your proposal, some information about those specific costs that are involved with the Crestwood publication, and also the revenue stream that you are able to apply towards those costs?
Sure, absolutely. As a matter of fact, in my PowerPoint, I did go out and I did solicit proposals for printing of that 30,000 issues, and it was put up there about $3,000.
So if I were to understand, that projected cost is $7,500.
That is correct.
And that's without any advertisement. That's just the raw cost, projected
That is correct,
cost.
and that includes that's turnkey. That includes your printing. That includes your mailing. That includes everything.
So as I looked at the different advertisements you put in there, basically you need a front page, back page. That'd be 4,000, and a couple of full page. That'd be another 1,500. You'd be right about there, plus the other 350 and the other 150. So I mean, the numbers make perfectly good, logical sense to me.
Mayor,
Trustee Carberry.
I think there's going to be it's my personal view that there may be some financial commitment here on behalf of the village, right? There's no guarantee. We're not going to start up with all the advertisers, up and running. So I think the first year, if we're going to have staff go ahead and look at this, I think we should if we spend $100,000 prior on the quarterly newsletters a year, I think John should come up with what kind of financial commitment. I think that's what Trustee Strite's getting at. Is it going to be $30,000? Is it going to be $25,000? Before we get started, what kind of commitment are we willing to bear?
Right. Are we going to float half of it? Are we going to commit to just doing it? What are we going to do?
Go ahead for a year. Let's see what kind of feedback we get from the residents, from everybody, and then if it sounds like something that would make sense, we try it for a year. But I think there's a number that we're going to have to commit to. I'm guessing. I don't think we can.
Trustee Carberry,
Trustee Stalker next, please, and then and Trustee Olenichik.
I agree that we have to make a commitment to some type of number. I think that the staff can review that and find out what that number would be, but I'll guarantee you the business is looking for an opportunity like this in the village to speak to the residents, to send out coupons, to advertise new opening businesses, and they've already asked for that. And I don't have a problem with making a commitment, tying it to a certain dollar figure, but I also have great confidence that this will work.
Thank you. Trustee Olenichik.
Thinking out of the box by approaching the library, by approaching the different public entities that are putting that out there, it only makes sense that instead of having 3 different mailers or 4 different mailers, you'd actually be able to consolidate it down to them. That's got to be costing the library, the school districts, it's got to be costing them equally the $7,500 to do that. So I would hope that staff would examine building that relationship with the different entities that send it out, and they would see the value in this. So then a resident would have one publication that would come through that would show all of the relative information.
I think that could happen. Excuse me, Madam.
Sure, Trustee
Alex, I
Carberry.
think that's a great idea. I think that's something that could happen in time. But I think it's a great idea. And I think this is a wonderful idea.
But I think our goal should be putting this out there, and ultimately, I understand there's gonna have to be some seed money, but ultimately, it paying for itself in a relatively quick amount of time, just from the numbers that were presented there, and your experience, I would be shocked if we wouldn't be able to create positive cash flow within the first 2 to 3.
Thank you. Trustee Bordereau.
Just a comment on the cash flow. Again, in looking at the Crestwood last 3 publications, I looked at the advertising, and Crestwood's doing a wonderful job with the advertising. I've talked with the mayor. The mayor tells me that it doesn't cost his community much of anything, and in some months it's positive. And I might point out that Crestwood is a different kind of community than Oak Lawn. We have a much bigger business base. We have auto dealers that advertise with huge budgets. They're advertising on television. To buy a page here on a monthly basis
He's getting
probably
his
makes
first ad right now.
probably makes a whole lot of sense. So if Crestwood could pay for this thing, I'm pretty confident that the Oak Lawn community could pay for this. And it's such a positive thing for the community. It's important that we at least experiment with this and move forward.
I have a question, Mr. Fanning. If we look to incorporate this as a village-wide kind of thing, and we're talking to the Park District and the library and the schools who have, their own design department, their own, graphic look and feel that they're accustomed to. For example, our library, I just saw their quarterly publication. It's color, it's on stiffer paper. If we wanted them to do an insert, could you get some costs on those items too, that aren't considered ads as such? But let's say the library wanted to put in a 14-page insert or a 6-page whatever, and have it just be that look and feel they're accustomed to. Can we get a price on that as well just moving forward?
Sure.
So-
I could tell you right now that it'd be a great savings. In fact, you're required by law to issue an annual water report, and that can go as an insert because it goes to the same people. So you save a tremendous amount on postage right there.
Yeah.
By having it. But yes, we want inserts and poly bags, and all of those things are available to people
Great.
who want them for
Great.
sure.
I have one other comment.
Trustee Carberry, then Trustee Strike.
This is, again, I think it's a great idea. However, who's going to own it? You mentioned who's going to own it with the village. Are we putting, we don't want to be putting pressure on handing this great idea off, and then staff's got to, on a monthly basis,
I agree.
have like ownership of, I think it should be more policy driven, and maybe the first, be very specific as to, what we want to cover. We want to make it pro-business, or, informational with the school districts, the park district, all the different ideas the trustees had here. But when you start throwing this out here, well, it's a great idea, but who owns it? Who's gonna be caught with the burden of it? Because it's not gonna be us. So they're gonna have to figure that out. And I think it should be more. Might want to think about more policy with the paper, and then that's on. If we go with it, that's on Fanning Communications, and maybe with some suggestions from, but I think that should be. We should think about that before we move forward with
Thank
anything.
you. Trustee Strike was next, then Trustee Warder.
What I'd like to see too is the soft costs that the manager talked about for the newsletter, I think are going to exist for this type of publication as well. So I'd like to see an estimate of those soft costs. And I'd also like to know what line item or what budget that this would come out of, because obviously, we're in February, we didn't talk
Right,
about
it's
it
not a
in our
budgeted item.
budgeted item, so I'd like
We'd
to
have
see
to have
that
an
as well.
amendment to the budget.
Thank you.
Listen, Mayor, I'm sorry.
Trustee Warder.
Listen, I think the motion was to direct staff to get all these kind of answers
That's
for
right.
us, okay,
That's
to,
right.
to policy. Who's going to represent this? Who's going to give Fannie Communication, okay to go ahead? These are things I think the staff and our legal team could come back and advise us on. All good questions.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, I just want to thank you, Mr. Fanning, for your positive message and proactive kind of style. I understand that people who focus on negativity have solicited you many times, and you said, nope, we don't do that. And I'm very impressed by that professionalism and very exciting to see if we can make this work. So we have a motion and a second, and I need the vote then on that, please.
Trustee Strike?
Yes.
Trustee Stalker?
Yes.
Trustee Oliniechek?
Yes.
Trustee Desmond?
Yes.
Trustee Carberry?
Yes.
Trustee Warder?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Fanning.
Thank you.
Well, it took much more time than I ever expected, but a lot of good questions and good discussion. Thank you. We are on item 9, approval of the meeting minutes for the special meeting minutes 2016-03, dated February 9th, 2016. May I have a motion, please, on number 9?
Motion approved.
Properly moved by trustee Oliniechek.
Second.
Seconded by trustee Warder. Any discussion here? Let's take that vote.
Trustee Strike?
Yes.
Trustee Stalker?
Yes.
Trustee Oliniechek?
Yes.
Trustee Desmond?
Abstain.
Trustee Carberry?
Yes.
Trustee Warder?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0-1.
Thank you. This brings us to item 10, which is approval of meeting minutes for the regular meeting minutes 2016-04,
Motion approved.
dated February 9th, 2016. We have a motion by trustee Oliniechek
Second.
and seconded by trustee Carberry. Any discussion? Let's take that vote, please.
Trustee Strike?
Yes.
Trustee Stalker?
Yes.
Trustee Oliniechek?
Yes.
Trustee Desmond?
Abstain.
Trustee Carberry?
Yes.
Trustee Warder?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0-1.
Thank you. 11 is new business by village trustees, District 6. Trustee Carberry.
No report tonight. Mayor.
Thank you. Trustee Stalker.
Nothing at this time, thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Warder.
Mayor, I do have a little quick something to report, but in light of this presentation, I'll make it short. There is a business in my community, Burger King, which was built about 17, 18 years ago, and it has been a little bit of an eyesore. There hasn't been much of an improvement on that property, and we now have $500 million invested across the street from them. So I asked staff to make contact with corporate headquarters, and we brought in the executive and their architects into the village hall. I met with the village manager, Steve Radis, our business agent, with those people, and they attended some architectural renderings on a vast improvement, but we wanted to even up it more, so we sent them back, okay, and they're going to meet again with us, so some really major improvements on that place. And when I finally have those plans in my hand, I'll have a community meeting, okay, to get that to the people that are impacted by Burger King. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Exciting and positive. Thank you for your leadership in District 4, Trustee Warder.
Thank you.
District 3, Trustee Strite.
Thank you, Mayor. Last Friday, we had some high winds that came through town and toppled some trees, evergreens, and people lost some tree branches. And the Public Works crews are going through the town, and they're picking up that tree debris if you put it out on the parkway. They've been picking it up they've been going through the day after your garbage is picked up. So we're expected to have some snow tomorrow, possibly, but they're gonna still make sure that they do get that. So anybody that has tree debris, make sure that you do get it on the parkway. And in conjunction with that, I filled up my yard waste containers with that tree debris, and those won't be picked up until the first week in April. So just wanted to remind everybody that yard waste will not be picked up until the first week in April, and get your tree debris out on the parkway. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. District 2, Trustee Oliniechek.
Yeah, just an update with Commonwealth Edison. Trustee Stripe mentioned that we did have the severe winds. Our village came out of it much better than it's done in the previous years, and I do credit it to the fine work that Commonwealth Edison has been doing on the tree trimming. and also the fine work that our Public Works Department had done on making sure that we got caught up on our tree trimming. Prior to October, was it October of last year? We were 3 years behind in tree trimming, Larry. And through a plan that staff, led by Matt Basil, they have caught up on all of the tree trimming, and I think that made a big difference. But that being said, I was still disappointed in seeing that we did have power outages. There was one in 2nd District that I personally went out to and looked at it, and it was, in my opinion, based off of the pictures and the investigation that I did, it was still preventable. It was a tree limb that, in an area that had been trimmed, they had missed a tree limb. It hit a wire, and the wire was on an older pole, and part of the pole broke. So we're going to continue working with Commonwealth Edison until we don't have to worry about when a windstorm comes through or when snow comes through, the best that we can. And I know that Commonwealth Edison right now is trying to set up a meeting. We're looking at April right now for the programs that they're going to be doing for the Village of Oak Lawn, continuing our infrastructure improvement. And I do want to let everyone know that Trustee Stalker was able to sit in on the last Commonwealth Edison meeting, and with his experience and his knowledge of Commonwealth Edison, was extremely helpful in bringing some clarity to some of the issues on the infrastructure. So again, I appreciate that, and Trustee Stalker, I know that you want to be a part of those meetings, and this is the stuff that if we can get people not worrying about their power going off during rainstorms or some windstorms and normal snowstorms, I think that we will have accomplished a major job. We've gotten better, and we want to continue doing that. That concludes my report.
Thank you. District 1.
Thank you, Mayor. I
Trustee
just have one
Desmond.
question for our village manager. I've been reading a lot lately in the newspapers about what's going on in Tinley Park with this low-income housing that somehow got approved by their building department. I mean, do we have any type of safeguards in place that could prevent something like that happening here?
Mayor and Board, the project that Tim is referring to is a proposal for housing that would be, we'll call it affordable housing, so it has a subsidy. That same developer, Buckeye, out of Ohio, did come to the Village of Oak Lawn and met with staff, I'm going to say sometime in the fall of 2015. And we basically essentially told the gentleman that it wasn't a project that was conducive for consideration in the Village of Oak Lawn. The difference again being between market-driven housing and affordable housing. That operative word would have meant a resolution passed by this board, sent to the county, showing your support, as opposed to market-driven housing. The gentleman obviously went to other communities, not to Oak Lawn. So the safeguard in place is it first goes to the administration. I would make you aware of it. I've made you aware in your till that there is an interest in this community for senior housing that's market-driven. There is an interest, and there have been developers looking at various projects, but none of that housing is affordable or subsidy-based. And that's been the direction of this board. So that's your first safeguard. Your second safeguard is you appoint the men and women who serve on our planning commission. A project of this nature would have to go before your planning commission, and I have full confidence that they would carry out the vision of you as the governing board for the community, and it would be publicly vetted, go through the proper channels before there'd be any consideration, and from there, it goes before you as a board. So I think there are some distinct substantive difference in what's occurring in Tinley Park, but in Oak Lawn, that's never even reached the discussion stage past the overture by a developer to establish a project in Oak Lawn.
So, as a board, we would have the right to turn something like that down.
That is correct. The way
Okay.
we're structured right now, a project of that nature would go through administration, your planning commission, and then would come before you as a board for your consideration. You would always have the ultimate review and consideration after it's been reviewed at staff and planning commission level.
So we wouldn't be in violation of any fair housing laws or anything like that?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
That's
you.
all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Trustee Desmond. So now we're on item 12, Village Manager's Report. Larry?
Thank you, Mayor and Board. I put before you what was announced today, released by the Illinois Municipal League. And as you all know, the Illinois Municipal League is your principal lobbyist in Springfield for state affairs. They represent Oak Lawn and another 1,296 municipalities in the state of Illinois. And what they submitted today is what's called Moving Cities Forward, which is the legislative package for the 99th General Assembly. And I would call to your attention the following priorities that I believe are in alignment with the vision and the future for this community. Number one, automatic appropriation authority for local funds. Funds that don't impact the state general fund, but are funds through statutes and through the Constitution and are already backed by dedicated revenue. That should automatically be distributed to villages and cities rather than be held hostage as they were during this last budget season. And hopefully we'll see an end to that. Priority number two, public safety arbitration reform. And I'm going to read this one to you because it's extremely important. Arbitrators today are making decisions in labor disputes that compel local governments to offer wage and benefit awards that exceed available revenues. What's needed is more transparency in the arbitration process and a requirement that the decisions that arbitrators make, who, by the way, arbitrators are not elected by residents in Oak Lawn, they're appointed. And to the best of my knowledge, at least in recent history, not one man or woman who's come to do arbitration decisions in Oak Lawn has lived in Oak Lawn. Let me be more pointed. Most of them live in suburbs along the North Shore of the greater Chicago area. The current process has led to financial hardships in local governments, including budgeting difficulties, service reductions, and employee layoffs. Senator from the McHenry area, and her name is Altaf, Pamela Altaf. She has already submitted Senate Bill 3105, and I would call that to your attention. I've already contacted the good senator and thanked her for her initiative. This would provide that in an arbitration hearing, it would be open to the public. Members of the media would be able to attend an arbitration session. Now, I've worked in a state myself where that process has been the law, and I found it to be effective. You'd be able to see what management, how they conduct themselves, management, and you'd be able to see how labor conducts themselves in an interest arbitration case where we're dealing about your tax dollars. That has worked well in other states across this country. It also provides that in no event shall the decision of the arbitration panel regarding economic issues exceed the financial ability of the employer to fund the award based upon current revenues and expenses of the employer, including the annual pension funding requirement, and without consideration of the ability of the employer, the Village of Oak Lawn in our case, to increase tax levels prospectively. To me, I think that is on target with what this board struggles with every year in the budget process. Next would be workers' compensation reform, very clear in the package I've given you. Next would be public safety, pension reform, with basically cost relief and strategic reform. I actually have in my hand tonight a copy of the Greenwich, Connecticut pension plan, amended in the year 2006. And let me repeat, 2006. Now, Greenwich, Connecticut, demographically, is probably one of the wealthiest communities in the United States, suburb for many executives, men and women who live and work in Manhattan. Greenwich, Connecticut clearly defines what the cost of living increase is for your pensions. It is a true cost of living definition. In addition, it caps the pension when the pension reaches 150% based on the COLA of what the starting pension is. Now, that's an interesting concept. It's something that's been talked about in Illinois, and I've conveyed my opinion on that to the governor's office. I'm supportive of something that is capped in that nature and yet still addresses men and women who have pensions that are lower than what the median income is in a respective community, so those pensions can continue to grow in a responsible manner. But I believe those are critical reforms. You also see the automatic appropriation authority for local funds, and you also see the annual state review of mandates. These are laws that are passed without any consideration of the cost on local municipalities. And I would submit to you, in the year 2016, we have a list of bills already submitted by legislators in this state that are appearing before the General Assembly that have cost impact on municipalities, and here we are without a budget for 6 months, and that's what's being proposed. So I would urge the board to take a look at this agenda and talk about it, but if you're talking about Mr. Fanning and his publication, to me, this is a document that every taxpayer in this community ought to be familiar with, because it's your dollars, once again, Springfield, spending your dollars without consideration of the impact on local government. Thank you, Mayor and Board.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor,
Trustee
I
Lindenchik.
do have a question on it. Larry, you bring up the point of this cost of living increase. That's both on the bargaining and non-bargaining pensions for all of the people that work for the village, correct? So would it be possible that the people who, like in leadership roles, wouldn't it be possible for us to look to change that for the non-bargaining side, for people who would be getting into a pension in the future? So moving forward, I know you can't change it for the people that have already received the benefit, but moving forward, wouldn't it be possible for us with our home rule to go ahead and at least make a forward step for the non-bargaining?
Let me respond to that. I don't think there's a manager in this community, including me, who would not advocate reform for every employee in this village. Every employee.
And I would agree, every employee, but as a leader, wouldn't you think that it would be a good step forward to say that we're going to make this move? We're not required to do it, and we're going to make this move forward?
Well, I think every employee, again, in this village, whether represented by a union or not represented by a union, in my opinion, the non-union employees all would back reform. But they all belong to systems, again, that are addressed by state statutes. The reform has to be done at the legislative level in Springfield, not here at the local level.
And
you can send resolutions, and I think we'd all support resolutions of that nature, but I believe the reform, again, has to be done at the state level.
But I think that would send a powerful message to leadership of, if people who truly are, are in positions like yourself or your staff truly believe in that if you sent a resolution to the state legislation asking them to consider making this change, that you believe that it's not sustainable. I think that's showing true leadership. I think that would be.
I think I just said it. Let me repeat. I don't think there's one man or woman on your management team that disagrees with what I just said and supports the bill submitted by the good senator from McHenry, Pamela Altoff. I think that's moving in the right direction, and I think what I just gave you and what other communities have done in other states in this nation are ones that make sense and should be enacted.
And I agree with you, but you're saying on two ends that you agree with it and you would send a letter or a support for it, but it's beyond, it can't be changed voluntarily. And I believe that if somebody said, I don't agree with this and I want this change, I don't see how the state could tell you, you have to take a greater benefit than what you believe you should be getting. And
I think I just explained to you, that's what the law says.
I understand that, but I'm saying that if you and your staff decided to make a letter of support to that and brought it to the village board, I think that you overwhelmingly would get support from us. I think that would be a great move
I
forward.
would think that as a governing body, again, I would review this, and as leaders, consider a resolution, pass a resolution, and I think sending it on to your legislative delegation would be powerful.
Well, I think this board here has already went ahead and removed pensions from part-time employees. I think that's a powerful statement, so I just want to make sure. Would you be willing to pen a resolution stating that you, Larry Deachin, as village manager, support this, yourself personally, for a reduced benefit?
I think I said that.
Okay.
And again, let me repeat for clarity, I don't think that there's a manager that represents the village, that's your department heads, that would not also join me in that support. And I hope your position would be just as supportive of every man and woman who's employed in the village of Oak Lawn.
And I agree with you, but right now, we're at an impasse. You have, we all know that pensions are unsustainable. I mean, the numbers are there. And somebody has to have leadership in it, and all I'm saying is,
Let
somebody
me
needs to take
let me
a
be a
lead.
little bit clearer,
One at
okay?
a
Go
time,
to the
please,
website, you can go to the website, take a look at every man and woman in this city, see what their wages are, see what their position is, and then you can answer what I've been saying to you, and it's a powerful resolution. And if you support that, there are men and women in this community who make more money than your management team. I think that's what I'm saying to you. And that is for every resident in Oak Lawn to see. Just click on www, okay, oaklawn.il.gov, and you will see every salary. It's as transparent and has been probably, I think, since, I want to say 2011. It's on there. And that, I think, would tell you why the resolution should be clear, and we certainly support it as managers, that all our employees should support a change in the pension system. We have a responsibility as public employees to share in getting this problem fixed, okay? And that's what we're saying. We share responsibility. I certainly believe in that, and I know my fellow managers agree.
Okay, any other detail, Larry?
No,
in your
Mayor,
report?
thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, and residents who do want to look that up, it's under the governmental transparency tab. It lists the salaries, so. Okay, 13, request to approve the Traffic Review Committee referral to remove no parking restrictions and replace with 15-minute parking on school days from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. on the east side of Meade Avenue from 91st Street to south of the school driveway. This was a 4-0 vote to approve. Item TC 1238, M like Mary, in District 1, and 14 is an ordinance granting that request. May I have a motion on 13 and 14?
Motion to approve?
Properly moved by trustee Oliniechek,
Second.
seconded by trustee Desmond. Any discussion? Let's take that vote, please.
Trustee Streit?
Yes.
Trustee Stalker?
Yes.
Trustee Oliniechek?
Yes.
Trustee Desmond?
Yes.
Trustee Carberry?
Yes.
Trustee Vorder?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. 15 is a request of the Board of Trustees to approve and direct the Fire and Police Commission to hire one firefighter, paramedic, from the current eligibility list. May I have a motion on
Motion to
15? Moved by trustee Oliniechek,
Second.
seconded by trustee Desmond. Any discussion? Let's take that vote, please.
Trustee Streit?
Yes.
Trustee Stalker?
Yes.
Trustee Oliniechek?
Yes.
Trustee Desmond?
Yes.
Trustee Carberry?
Yes.
Trustee Vorder?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. And now we're moving on to item 16, Village Clerk's Report. Jane?
Approval of semi-monthly disbursements, number 2016-04D, in the amount of $1,384,605.15.
Thank you. May I have a motion on 16A, please?
Motion made.
Made by trustee Vorderer,
Second.
Seconded by trustee Stalker. Any discussion? Let's take that vote, please.
Trustee Streit?
Yes.
Trustee Stalker?
Yes.
Trustee Oliniechek?
Yes.
Trustee Desmond?
Yes.
Trustee Carberry?
Yes.
Trustee Vorter?
Yes.
Motion passes. Couple things, Mayor. I know I did discuss this at the last meeting, but it is very important. Early voting and grace period registration and voting begins at the Oak Lawn Village Hall next Monday, February 29th, and runs every day through March 14th, right here in this room at the Village Hall Auditorium. What grace period registration and voting means is that you can register to vote and vote at the same time, and you do need 2 forms of ID for this. Times for early voting and grace period registration voting are Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., and Sundays, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. For more information, go to www.cookcountyclerk.com. And it is important to come out and vote. Please do. And any questions, you can give me a call also. But David Orr, the county clerk, is doing everything he can to get people out to vote. So I hope I see everybody up here voting. It's popular up in this room. And anybody in suburban Cook County can early vote at the Village of Oak Lawn. So come on out.
That's great. Thank you, Jane. Item 17 is Village President's Report. I don't have too much to say. I just want to say in my capacity as Liquor Commissioner, we held our second training session. It's called Bassett Training, and this is for anyone who has a liquor license and the people that serve. In the state of Illinois, it is a requirement that all servers of alcohol have the certification, which lasts for 3 years. So I want to thank the Illinois Liquor Control Commission at Lee Rupus for having a great class. I want to thank the businesses who sent their staff and themselves to come and learn how to keep our residents and friends safe and serve alcohol in a professional and responsible manner. So very happy to do that, and I want to thank our Liquor Advisory Board for helping with that as well. We did have representation from them at that event. So I want to thank Public Works. Gosh, with this windstorm, I saw branches everywhere. Trustee Streit, in your district, entire tree fell across Central Avenue. Within moments, it was cleared away. This was a huge tree. I saw the photo. I was like, wow. Yeah, so they were really on it, and hats off to these unsung heroes in our village, these men and women, Public Works. So want to thank them. Arts Commission, they're having a public art event in July. It's called Acorns on Parade. It's the giant 4-foot acorns, and businesses are now buying these, and there's going to be a display of them after the 4th of July weekend. But before that, they need volunteers to come and help them paint them. So if your school, if your family, if your business, or if just you by yourself want to come and help them, please call Village Hall. My number at the Village Hall is 708-499-7740. And anyone can call, and it's going to be a fun project. And lastly, the Rotary Club is doing something unusual this year. On March 11th at Oak Lawn Community High School, they're having donkey basketball. If you have never seen donkey basketball, you need to come out. It raises, come on down, Trustee Carberry, I'll buy you a ticket. It is quite a unique event, and the donkeys do not harm the gymnasium floor. They wear these special booties, I guess. I don't know. Donkey shoes, yeah. So it's going to be fun, and that is March 11th, 2016. The Oak Lawn Rotary Club has a Facebook page, or you could contact me also for tickets. So that's a good event. And the Rotary Club, this money will go to support scholarships for area students and other local causes. So all the money goes to charity. So I think that's all I wanted to say, and we have items 18. Trustee Oliniechek. Item 18, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Oh, thank you. And is there a second? Trustee Vorter, thank you. Any discussion? Let's take that vote, please.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.